In tonight's Political Insider, a vote of conscience. In a surprise announcement, ranking Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer came out against the Obama administration's Iran nuclear deal. Will his no vote derail the president's plans? For insight, we turn to our guest tonight on Capitol Insider, Julian Hattem, reporter for The Hill. Julian, Senator Schumer says he'll reject the Iran deal, going against party lines. What was his reason?
Sure. So Senator Schumer had a number of point-by-point critiques of this big multinational Iran nuclear deal. On the one hand, he said that over the next couple of years, in the short term, the deal was too weak to allow effective inspection measures, so that international inspectors couldn't necessarily tell if Iran was cheating and adhering to the terms of the deal. He said that after the terms of the deal run out in 10 or 15 years, that Iran will be more empowered and will have a lot of money from the last couple of years after sanctions are pulled under the terms of this deal, and then it will be basically on the threshold of having a nuclear weapon. And, you know, in the meantime, he's criticized this deal for not tackling any other so-called non-nuclear aspects of what Iran is up to, such as funding and arms support for terrorist groups like Hezbollah, human rights abuses within its own country. It stays relatively silent on those issues, which Senator Schumer had a big problem with.
Obama had such a great line over the weekend. He said, "We don't negotiate with our friends, we negotiate with our enemies," and that's what he's doing in this Iran deal. But since then, many have wondered if the high-ranking Democrat could persuade others in his party to reject the plan. Here's what he had to say today about the issue.
This is a vote of conscience. It was a vote of conscience for me. It'll be a vote of conscience for my colleagues. And to try to do some kind of horse trading, you'll get on this committee if you vote this way, you'll get a road if you vote this way, that would be counterproductive. It's not how the Senate works. And I won't be able to force anybody to vote my way. I can simply argue my point of view and see if they accept it.
All right, Julian, just how persuasive do you think Schumer can be? And can we really expect no horse trading at all?
Well, Senator Schumer is a very powerful Senate Democratic lawmaker. He's got a lot of clout within his party. And as he acknowledged right there, he will be trying to persuade lawmakers who will be giving his arguments for what he sees as the faults of this deal. But I mean, he's right. This is a very, very consequential agreement. Lawmakers are hearing from all sides on this. And this is, you know, certainly once in a decade, once in a kind of only once every couple of years does something of this magnitude come across Democratic members of Congress's desk. So it's not like you can sell your vote away in exchange for a road or some government facility. I think people really are hearing from a lot of sides on this and, you know, having to think very, very deeply about how they feel about this deal going forward.
We shouldn't be naive. There's a lot of lobby money, though, going to members of Congress and the Senate who will vote against this plan. There's a lot of money out there. It's not, never mind the roads and everything. There's a lot of money from the Israeli PACs and others who are urging members of Congress to vote no on this. Now, when the Iran deal was first announced, analysts predicted the Republican-led Congress would reject it. Now, with Schumer and maybe other Democrats rejecting this deal, how close is the Senate to having a veto-proof majority? Do we really know for sure?
Well, not yet, and that really is the question. As you noted, most Republicans have come out against this deal, and if they all unite, and there's a couple Democrats as well, it seems like they could most likely kill it on a first chance go-around. Obama could then, of course, veto that legislation, and Congress would need 2/3 majorities to override that veto. And so far, there's kind of an uphill climb for opponents of the deal. Chuck Schumer is the first Senate Democrat to oppose the deal, and they would need a total of 13 to override a veto, assuming all Republicans vote in a block. And they would need 44 House Democrats to peel off and vote to override the veto, which also seems like a heavy lift at this point.
Now let's talk about the political fallout. Liberal activists have already pledged $11 million in retribution against Schumer for coming out against the deal. How will this impact Schumer's effectiveness in the Senate? But first, here's my theory. Schumer votes against the Iran deal now, but votes the opposite way and does not override Obama's veto. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's possible. He suggested that he would override the veto, but I mean, you know, this is one of those votes that remains to be seen exactly as we get there. It's kind of undecided. But it certainly is alienating him among some liberal Democrats who have never really been super warmly embracing of Schumer. You know, being from New York, he's close to Wall Street and voted for the Iraq War. So there's some skepticism there that's long simmering.
I still think if not Schumer, they can maybe vote against it, do what they think is the right deal now. Obama vetoes it, then they may change their minds at the end and Obama still gets his final say. possibility?
Oh, absolutely a possibility. There are some Democratic lawmakers who said, that's a real difference of vote. The first vote against the deal is symbolic, essentially, but the real vote, what really matters, is whether or not to override the president's veto, and that's certainly a harder vote for a lot of Democrats to make.
It's going to get interesting the next month. Julian Hattem, reporter for The Hill. Thanks for being with us, Julian.
Thank you for having me.